All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about The Midnight Walk. This is a new horror adventure first-person game. It was developed by Moonhood Studios. They are a new game studio. This is the first game they've come out with. And I just recently played through it on the PlayStation 5 and the PSVR2. Just wanted to give my thoughts on it. So with that being said, this is going to be a spoiler-free review, obviously, since this game is still basically brand new at the time of doing this video. So let's get into it. In The Midnight Walk, you play as a creature called the Burned One, and apparently you wake up after the end of the world. It's very dark and depressing and, like evil looking, and the sun is gone. You don't know if it's like burned out or destroyed or whatever, but it's a very disturbing looking place that you've woken up into, and you're kind of set on your adventure. For the first little bit, you don't really know what you're doing, but you quickly meet a creature called Pot Boy, and he's going to be your companion throughout the rest of the game. He is a little fella with a lantern, like pot lantern for a head with a fire in it, and he's going to help you solve puzzles and like stay away from enemies and find collectibles and things like that. He's just going to kind of escort you, or you're escorting him throughout the game, but he's going to help you throughout the game. And the objective is to get him to Moon Mountain. And that's about it as far as the story as I'm going to get into, because like I said, I don't want to spoil anything. And honestly, this game doesn't really hold your hand. There's no like grand exposition in this game as far as the story goes. Like if you want to know what's going on in this game, you're going to have to put in the effort. Most of the story is told through collectibles and characters that you find and talk to throughout the game. And we'll get into that in just a few minutes. But that's basically it for the premise of the game. So let's get into the positives. So the biggest thing, obviously, that kind of immediately grabs your attention are the graphics. This game is beautiful. So it's a combination of claymation and stop motion, kind of in the vein of like Nightmare Before Christmas or Little Nightmares or something like that. So if you like that art style, you'll definitely enjoy this, because this is a beautiful game. They put a lot of work into this. Obviously, from my understanding, everything is clay, like all the characters and settings, and then they digitally scanned them in and created the game from there. I'm not a game developer, so I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but it looks great. The characters are really detailed, the settings are really detailed, everything looks dark and disturbing, and even the monsters are pretty horrifying. Like I wouldn't call this necessarily a horror game. It's like horror adjacent, I guess, because it is a very dark and sometimes depressing game, and it has some horror elements to it. But even still, the monsters can be terrifying, especially like in VR. The other thing that I really enjoyed about this game was the music. It's a very, very nice mix of like jazz and epic pieces and like orchestral pieces mixed with like some film noir stuff. Like it's a whole mixed bag of stuff based on the settings that you're in and the characters you're talking to and things like that. And it's awesome. I love like indie developers that really, really take their time and make a fantastic soundtrack. It was kind of the same thing with South of Midnight. I loved the soundtrack for South of Midnight, and I love this one. I think I might like this one even more than that. And I was really in love with South of Midnight. But The Midnight Walk has some incredible music. So I mentioned before that this game doesn't really hold your hand or offer a lot of explanation of like what's actually going on in this world and what's happened and where the sun is and who all these characters are and everything like that. It's really kind of up to you to find the collectibles and talk to all the characters that you pass in the game. The collectibles are going to give you a lot of insight into what's going on in this world. So the main three collectibles are shell phones, which are like just pre-recorded things from a character that, like I said, will just give you more insight into kind of what happened before you got here. And then there's clay figures. There's lots of clay figures to find of basically every character, every monster. And that gives you a little more description of like who they are. And then there's movie reels that you can take back to your base, which is called Housey. It's like this house that follows you around throughout the game. And you can watch all the film reels, and it's a prequel. And that's not spoiling anything, but it's a prequel, and it kind of lets you know how the world got this way. So with that, even though this game is beautiful and it's dark and twisted and the music is awesome and there's lots of collectibles to find, I still do have quite a list of negatives, things I did not like about this game. So the first one right off the bat, I got to talk about the VR. I was really not impressed with the VR version of this. Now the flat screen version, I've already said several times, it's gorgeous. So trying this out on the PlayStation VR2, I was actually highly disappointed. I immediately noticed that it's just fuzzy and the characters are just grainy, and like the resolution is just, it's just not there. And I love playing in VR. Like if I had the choice between, playing flat screen or playing VR, I would just play VR because I love that feeling of being immersed, like actually in the world of the game that you're playing. But when I put the headset on and fired this game up, I was really disappointed, like pretty immediately. I ended up playing about a chapter and a half, and I said, fuck it, I'm going back to flat screen. The other big thing with the VR is that the text, like the subtitles when the characters are talking, it's awful. Like it's so fuzzy. It like not unreadable, but really, really, really fuzzy. Like just did not look good at all. I have heard that they're like working on a patch, or they've announced that they're going to release a patch or something like that. I don't know if it was just not out at the time that I was playing it, but yeah, I was not impressed with the VR. So like I said, I just went back to playing the flat screen, and I played the rest of the game that way. Another thing with the Midnight Walk that I didn't necessarily like all the time, it was okay, but it got a little bit tedious, was the stealth sections. So there's no combat in this game at all. You can't defend yourself against the monsters at all, and of course they, one hit kill you every single time if they catch you. So anytime there's a monster involved, you have to sneak around and hide, and hide in the shadows, or like under little shells or in little huts or something like that, and basically not be seen. And I'm not a huge fan of stealth sections anyway, but these got a little tedious. Thankfully, I will say the checkpoints were really, really generous in this game. So like you'll go to a big area where you got to light 5 candles or something to open the door to go to the next section. And if you get caught and killed by the monster, thankfully, it doesn't reset your progress. So, you lit 2 candles, you die, you come back, and the 2 candles are still lit. So you don't have to start over every single time. So I will at least acknowledge that the checkpoints were very, very generous. Most games, they would not be that generous, and I know that. So I know that complaining about that is kind of dumb. But at the same time, it was tedious. I'd say it's like the last half of the game, I was like, okay, all right, I'm tired of like running from monsters and hiding and getting killed and having to, restart. Well, not restart the whole thing, but restart, come back to this area and kind of get my bearings and find the rest of the candles or the levers that I had to pull, or, whatever. It did get a little tedious. I wish there was some way to defend yourself other than just running and hiding. But I also understand that this game is not meant to be that. Like it's meant to be, more of a adventure walking simulator stealth game. I understand that's what they were going for. So, whatever. I get it. It's just a personal preference of mine. So one thing in the game that I do wish was a little bit more challenging was the puzzles. So the puzzles in this game are very simple. A lot of times it's just you light all the candles, like Zelda or something. You light all the candles and the door opens up. But sometimes it's like light the candles in the right order, or pull the levers in the right order. But that's about it. Like the puzzles are very, very basic. So I do wish those were more challenging, and like more puzzles but less stealth. Also, talking about the story again, the overarching story of like the world and what your objective is, I was intrigued by. Like I wanted to know what was going to happen with this, and why this world was the way that it was, and what your plan was to try to fix it. But each chapter, like within the game, is a separate story of a different character or characters. Like you're kind of playing through their story, or you're learning about their story, I guess I should say. And it may just be personal preference for me, but like the stories didn't really resonate with me. I didn't really care. Like I found myself not getting attached to these characters in the way that I feel like the developers wanted you to. Like it was obvious that some of these scenes and, revelations or whatever were supposed to be really emotional and like hard hitting, and it just didn't do it for me. I don't know if it's just the way that it was presented or the way it played out or whatever, but I found myself not really caring too much about the individual characters that I was, dealing with. I was more concerned with, the burned one and Pop Boy and like the moon, getting to Moon Mountain, and like where did the sun go, and like all that. I was really invested in that, but the character stories within each individual chapter, I kind of find myself like pushing to get through those so I could, progress further and, just get to the end of the game because I was very eager to see how it ended. With that being said, there are two different endings, and actually, I guess this kind of goes into the next negative of the game, and that's that it's too short. It's too short and it's too easy to complete. So, like I said, there are two endings of the game, but you literally just it takes like 30 seconds to get the two different endings. It's like one choice at the end of the game. And of course, again, I'm not going to spoil what that choice is, but you can make one choice and reload it and then just make that choice again. So there's really no reason to play through the game again. Just for example, for me, I got 100% completion. I got the platinum trophy and everything in about 5.5 hours. So that's finding all the collectibles. That's doing any little side stuff, which there wasn't a whole lot of side stuff. It was like kind of find the collectibles, and there was little, odd little trophies to do here and there. The game's very linear. It's very short. The puzzles, like I said, are extremely easy. So my problem with that is that it is a $40 game, at least at the time of doing this. It's $40 on PlayStation, and I think it's $36. I think it's on sale on Steam right now. So it's hard for me to find the justification for a $40 game to be 5.5 hours. And that's only if you want to 100% it. You could go through the game in 3.5, 4 hours. Like if you don't check everywhere and you just kind of want to experience the story and run through the levels, 3.5, 4 hours for $40. I find that hard to justify, even though, like I've already said, the game's beautiful, the music's awesome, the characters are cool, and it's dark and twisted, and obviously they put a lot of work into this, and I hate to take that away from them. But at the end of the day, $40 for 5 hours is I just don't feel like that's a fair price. And then on top of that, I don't really think there's a whole lot of replayability value. Like the only reason I guess that you'd want to replay maybe some of the chapters is if you missed collectibles. There's a chapter select, so you can go back and replay chapters and find collectibles if you want to. But once you beat the game, and even if you find everything, you 100% everything, there's no unlockables. There's no new game plus, anything like that. You don't even have to, like I've already mentioned, you don't even have to play through the game and do anything different to get the other ending. You just reload your checkpoint. So overall, just kind of recapping, with the Midnight Walk, you're going to get beautiful graphics, awesome music, collectibles to find if you're into that, a story that is intriguing, like the overarching story. You want to find out what's going on in this world and what happened to the sun and how you're going to fix it. That is a very intriguing story, but you've got lots of negatives. The VR, the stealth, the tedious stealth sections, the lack of combat, the puzzles are too easy, and the cherry on top, it's too short. So with that being said, if you're on the fence about buying this game, I would say if it's still $40, don't buy it unless you are just really, really interested. You really like this animation style. You really want to just support the developers, which I did. I paid $40 for the game, and I don't regret buying the game because I wanted to do this review anyway. I was really interested in what the game had to offer. I feel like if I would go back and I knew then what I know now, I may change my decision. The best bet is probably wait till it goes on sale. I feel like this is more of like a $20 game rather than a $40 game. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know down in the comments if you've played the Midnight Walk already, what you think of it. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Again, this is just my personal opinion of the game, so obviously feel free to disagree with me. And if you've watched the channel a little bit before, you know that I've been doing a lot of Let's Plays of horror games and stuff. I'm trying to get away from that because I want to offer a little bit more value. And I feel like videos where I'm just like, hey guys, watch me play a horror game aren't quite cutting it. So I figured doing reviews like this. So if you like these type of videos, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and I will see you in the next one. All right, bye.